Shi Qingxuan was terrified to the core. God, don't talk anymore, he croaked hoarsely. Can you please stop? God, my God, what are you saying? What nonsense are you spewing? Hexuan's hand shot out and seized Shiwuru's neck. You! Have you no remorse? Shiwuru laughed maniacally. Remorse? What a joke! Ship-sinking Blackwater to think you are a supreme ghost king! You want to talk to me about remorse? Let me tell you, there is no such thing! Shi Qingxuan wailed. Shiwuru continued with his head held high. Everything I have today I fought for. I will fight for what I don't have. I will change my fortune if fate denies me. My fate is up to me and not the heavens. This was the first time Shilian had heard such an interpretation of that proverb, not simply rejecting fate, but forcibly altering it, and he was blown away even through the chills that washed over him. Hexuan also burst out laughing, sounding like his eyes had been opened to a brand new world by Shiwuru's unshakable tenacity in refusing to admit his own wrongs. His expression grew more and more frightening, and Shi Qingxuan broke down. Gaga, please, I beg you, please, stop talking, please, shut up, help! However, Shiwuru's smug arrogance was undaunted. Qingxuan, Gaga will go first. I will wait for you down below. Before he finished his sentence, Hexuan placed his hand on his head and gripped his hair. Shi Qingxuan's soul was going to leave his body. The iron chains banged and clanged wildly against the wall. Mingzhong! Mingzhong, I'm sorry! I'm sorry! We're the ones who sinned! We're the ones in the wrong! It's my fault! My brother only did what he did because of me! My brother's gone mad! He's gone crazy! Can't you see? You... He wanted to beg for forgiveness, for mercy, but he couldn't. All he could do was kowtow endlessly with his eyes. Hexuan slowly turned his gaze to him. For a fleeting moment, he seemed to have remembered something. He calmed and stopped. The sight of this was like a ray of hope, and Shi Qingxuan let out a breath of relief. The tears welling in his eyes finally rolled down his cheeks. Before he could speak, he heard Hexuan's cruel reply. You've called for the wrong person. In one swift movement, he wrenched Shiwuru's head from his neck. Ah! Blood erupted from the uneven stump of Shiwuru's neck as his head was yanked from his body. The far-reaching spray coated Shi Qingxuan's body and face. Shi Qingxuan could finally endure it no longer, and started screaming as if he had just lost his own mind as well. The madmen found it incredibly interesting to see a headless corpse stand without collapsing, and they went wild with delight. They spun around him in circles, clapping and cheering, their bare feet smearing bloody footprints across the floor. Oh my, he's dead, he's dead! You have an illustration? Dead! Shi Qingxuan screamed for who knows how long, screamed until it felt like his soul and spirit had fled his body, and as the screaming finally ceased, he didn't even remember stopping. When he regained his awareness at last, he had collapsed into a lifeless heap on the blood-soaked floor of an unknown amount of time. Hexuan stood not far from him. He was staring commandingly down at Shi Qingxuan from above. Shiwuru's head dangled from his hand, his eyes round and wide. A moment later, Hexuan asked in monotone, Do you have anything else you want to say? Shi Qingxuan's eyes were lifeless. His gaze was unfocused as he stared at the row of urns atop the altar before him and at those two shredded fans on the ground. It was a long time before he mumbled, I want to die. Dream on, Hexuan responded coldly. Hexuan extended a hand toward him, and Shi Qingxuan closed his eyes. At that same moment, Xilian's soul was suddenly yanked out and thrust upward. When he fell back down and reopened his eyes, he found that a red-clad man was embracing his limp body. Huacheng was kissing him deeply, with one hand gently holding his chin in place. No wonder the spiritual power supporting the soul-shifting spell had been slipping away so rapidly. Huacheng had used the fastest and most effective way to suck out the powers he had lent, and he'd successfully called Xilian's soul back into his body. Seeing Xilian wake up, Huacheng parted his lips and began to pull away. But under such dire circumstances, Xilian had no further mind for propriety. He circled both arms around Huacheng's neck and hauled him down to suck back the spiritual power that Huacheng had sucked from him. Huacheng clearly hadn't expected him to do this, and in his moment of carelessness, his reclaimed spiritual powers flowed back the other way. Afraid he was going to break away, Xilian cupped his face, then flipped their bodies over to pin Huacheng to the ground. He felt a coolness pour into his body. It streamed down his throat and spilled warmth into his stomach. Just then the little wooden door of Puji's shrine creaked open. A giant green figure crawled outside like a caterpillar. Fucking hell! Which son of a bitch is this bold? Has some thieving punk dared come to my house to steal and disturb my slumber? Achoo! This ancestor's gonna show you a thinger. He trailed off when he saw the two entwined figures outside the shrine, apparently wrapped in each other's arms and kissing with fervent passion. One red, one white. Who else could they be? Ah! He shrieked. Hua Chung raised his hand to grab for Shi Lian's shoulder, but he turned his wrist at the sound of Chi Rung's racket. Chi Rung yelped as he was thrown back inside, and the door slammed shut behind him with a wham. Only then did Hua Chung roll them over again and pin Shi Lian beneath him. He pulled back slightly to gasp harshly for breath, his eyes flickering its glint dark. Your Highness! Shi Lian didn't have time to explain. He wound one arm around Hua Chung's neck again to pull him down once more. After he'd sucked down enough spiritual power, he choked out a cough, then cried aloud, Soul-shifting spell! But this time, it was like there was a wall blocking him before that upward swing, and his soul rebounded heavily back into his own body. Opening his eyes with a shocked gasp, he found that the scenery above him was still the same starry night sky and Hua Chung's anxious face. Shi Lian sat up and hugged his head. I can't pass through anymore, he murmured. Was Shi Qingxuan dead? Did Blackwater Demon Xuan reinforce his barrier? No matter the reason, he couldn't return to Shi Qingxuan's body. Even if he rushed to the South Sea at that very moment, he'd almost certainly be too late. Seeing how disconcerted Shi Lian was by this development, Hua Chung said, Your Highness, I'm sorry. Shi Lian looked at him. But outsiders shouldn't interfere in this affair, Hua Chung added. Shi Lian waved dismissively. You don't need to apologize. Honestly, I wouldn't be able to do much even if I were there. The soul-shifting spell only allowed him to enter Shi Qingxuan's body, and Shi Qingxuan was now nothing more than mortal. Even if Shi Lian could help him break free of those shackles, how could he possibly fight against the master of the Blackwater demon lair? Escape was impossible. After swiftly composing himself, Shi Lian re-entered the heavenly communication array. Lingwen, have you guys headed out yet? Your Highness, Lingwen exclaimed. Why did you go so silent for so long all of a sudden? We already dispatched a number of heavenly officials to the South Sea. His Highness Qi Ying returned, so he'll head out soon too. But it's not easy to enter the Blackwater demon lair. Who knows when we'll find them? Wait, I'll go with all of you, Shi Lian croaked. Maybe I'll still remember the way, but I'll need to trouble you to send someone to pick me up from Puchi Shrine. Very well. He just arrived, Lingwen said. Slightly confused, Shi Lian turned his head to look. Hua Chung had disappeared, but he spotted two junior officials walking toward the shrine from the direction of Puchi village. Behind them was a tall young man with curly raven locks. It was Kong Yizhen. Shi Lian inclined his head to greet him. Kong Yizhen didn't understand that he should return the courtesy, but Shi Lian hardly minded. He looked around. He didn't see any trace of Hua Chung anywhere, and Shi Lian knew that he was giving him space to deal with this affair. The two of them, accompanied by the junior officials, left for the South Sea. At Shi Lian's suggestion, they went out of their way to gather dozens of hefty coffins that had carried the dead to prepare for any unexpected situations. After they had raced over the waters for about 6 hours, they happened upon a bizarre sight. The corpses of a number of giant bonefish floated lifelessly on the sea's surface, and their remains knocked into the ship as they sailed along. Many of the heavenly officials were alarmed. Are we there? We can't be, Shi Lian said. If we had entered the Blackwater demon lair, the ship wouldn't still be afloat or moving this quickly. That said, they were clearly sailing through the aftermath of General Pei in the Watermaster's battle from the previous night. As they sailed, Kong Yizhen perched on his heels on the ship's railing, maintaining the high difficulty position with ease. Suddenly he asked a question. There's a black island ahead. Is it that one? Shi Lian squinted to look, and sure enough there was a shadowy landmass not too far away, and it did resemble Blackwater Island. Shi Lian frowned slightly. It does look like it, but how have we found it so easily? And the ship didn't sink either. Please remain vigilant, everyone. This might be a trap. But as soon as he spoke, he realized it wasn't. This was because he'd spotted a figure on the beach, slashing at logs with a sacred sword that was meant for battle. The figure was building coffins underneath the hot sun. There were already 3 completed ones set to the side, and a 4th was in progress. Shi Lian started waving. General Pei! It's General Pei! That's the right island without a doubt! The ship immediately changed track and sailed swiftly to their new destination. When Pei Ming saw that reinforcements had arrived, he didn't appear particularly delighted. Instead, he stabbed the sword into the ground and rubbed at his nose. What the heck? You had to show up just as I finished making these, he said, sounding grim. It's amazing that anyone showed up at all, Kong Yizhen said. When they heard it was to save you, suddenly no one had time. Pei Ming's expression seemed to indicate that he couldn't be bothered with children, and he turned to Shi Lian. Your Highness, you went back first. How did you manage to get the ship to float on the water of the demon lair? I don't think it's the ship, Shi Lian said. The Blackwater demon lair's curse has dispersed. Still perplexed, Pei Ming tested this theory. Sure enough, he felled a thicket of large trees with just one swing of his sword. His spiritual powers had returned. Speechless for a moment, Pei Ming shook his head. Had I known, I wouldn't have worked so hard to build these coffins. It was true. He'd labored tirelessly all night for nothing. He made coffins for 4, but 3 of them were now useless. The team of heavenly officials disembarked the ship and ran straight for the heart of the forest. The little ghosts lurking in the woods had never seen a sight like this, and they scampered away in fright. There were no invisible creatures lying in wait when they reached Blackwater Lake, and no spiritual fields to disrupt their power. After some examination, they dispersed the illusion cast upon the waters. The iron prison and the Netherwater Manor appeared before their eyes. Shilian collected the remains of the black-robed skeleton when they entered the Netherwater Manor, and carried the bundle with him while he frantically searched the palace. Soon, they found the great hall. 2 bloody shackles hung empty on the mottled wall. A headless corpse lay sprawled on the floor in the middle of the chamber. Its blood had already run dry, and a group of madmen were throwing random objects at it. The moment the heavenly officials entered, the madmen grew even more excited. Pei Ming was stunned for a good while before he dared to recognize the corpse. Shaken, he exclaimed, "Water, Master Xiong!" Of course, Shilian already knew this had happened, and he issued instructions to those around him. Will everyone please search the manor and the island proper for Lord Windmaster, or his remains? However, no matter where they looked, there was no trace of Shi Qingxuan on the island. Had Blackwater Demon Xuan taken the Windmaster away? Or perhaps he had murdered the Windmaster, then and there, and thrown his corpse into the sea for his flesh to be devoured by fish. Shi Wudu had gone berserk and provoked Hexuan to violence. He was dead, but he hadn't been killed by Shi Qingxuan's hand. Would Hexuan still go through with his threat to switch the Windmaster's fate? After chasing away the pesky madmen, Pei Ming half-crouched on the floor, and was lost in thought for a long time. At last he sighed. Watermaster Xiong, you were proud for your whole life, but it ended like this. I don't even know if your eyes are closed. Truly, the higher you climb, the harder you fall. Life's misfortunes are inescapable. Even as gods, we cannot be spared in the end. Kong Yizhen, on the other hand, didn't share such deep sentiments. He ran around the Netherwater Manor, his footsteps pitter-pattering everywhere, and wandered into the chamber where they stood for a look. He gave a cursory glance at the dead body, and thought it strange. Where's its head? It was taken by Blackwater Demon Xuan, Shilian replied. What grudge? What resentment did the Demon Lair Master hold against him? Pei Ming lamented. And where's Qingxuan? Or the Earth Master? Did 3 of the elemental officials perish? Earth, water, and wind alike? It was a great grudge indeed, and a great resentment, Shilian said. As for Lord Earthmaster, it depends on who you're asking after. The real one is in my hands. The fake one took Lord Watermaster's head. What? Shilian eyed him. General Pei probably didn't know, right? He asked softly. Blackwater Demon Xuan's real surname was He. His name is Xuan. Pei Ming's face changed slightly at that. It seemed that Pei Ming and Ling Wen weren't completely in the dark regarding what Shi Wudu had done, though the extent of their knowledge couldn't be determined so easily. Everything that had to be reported was reported. Everything that needed to be dealt with was dealt with. When Shilian finally returned to Puchi Village, an entire day had come and gone. Shilian's steps dragged with exhaustion. When he returned to Puchi Shrine and opened the door, he could hear Qirong barking and yelling. Dog Huacheng! Dog fuck Shilian! Have you two no shame? Ah, fuck! What the hell was that in the middle of the night? I'm fucking horrified! My ears are fucking blinded! You fucking owe me! Nothing but vulgarities and profanities spewed from his mouth. Shilian was struck by the frightful memory of the night before, when he and Huacheng had taken turns pinning each other to the ground, sucking power back and forth. He'd been too panicked to think it embarrassing at the time, but now he had nothing to distract him from keen awareness. He almost threw the door shut and fled. Huacheng had been leaning back in his chair with his boots crossed and propped on the table, but the moment he heard Shilian enter, he put his legs down and casually struck the back of Qirong's head to knock him out. He then rose to his feet to greet him. Gaga. Shilian nodded and closed the door behind him. Qirong lay prone and bound like a little green worm, and Shilian stepped over him to sit down at the table. Did Guzi and Lang Yin go out to play? Yeah, I let them out. You've worked hard, Huacheng said. No, you're the one who worked hard, Shilian said. Huacheng flashed a brief smile. Then he said, I thought Gaga would blame me. Shilian shook his head. Someone doesn't need to overthink things. I really don't blame you. In fact, you were right about this whole thing. Outsiders really can't possibly interfere. After some thought, he still asked, Sanang, what do you think Blackwater Demon Xuan will do to Lord Windmaster? Huacheng was briefly silent before he answered. I don't know either. Blackwater is rather eccentric. He languished alone in misery for far too long. No one can understand what he's thinking. No one can understand what he's thinking. Shilian remembered that this was similar to remarks that many of the heavenly officials in the upper court had made about Crimson Rain Sought Flower. Ship-seeking Blackwater had emerged from Mount Tonglu after slaughtering millions of ghosts, and Crimson Rain Sought Flower had done the same. Hexuan had suffered alone for ages, and Huacheng couldn't have suffered any fewer years of solitude. Hatred was what made ship-sinking Blackwater. Then what about Crimson Rain Sought Flower? What made Huacheng Huacheng? Myriad ideas flashed through Shilian's mind in the span of an instant. He shook his head to will away the phantom of that noble, gracious, special someone and organized his thoughts. There's something I don't understand. This whole business with the Watermaster's fraud must have been done quite covertly, and he deceived everyone for so long. How did Blackwater learn the truth? If it'll make things difficult for you to answer, you don't have to respond. He fled, moved his domain, and even dropped the Heavenly Official Act. What's left to be difficult at this point? Huacheng replied. It's simple, actually. That night Blackwater died, Shiwudu personally went to confirm his death. Because the Reverend of Empty Words only moves to a new target when the previous is dead? Shilian hypothesized. Yeah, Blackwater didn't know who he was, but he remembered his face. Later on, when he became a ghost and learned of the affairs of heaven and earth, he discovered that man was the water god. No wonder he remembered, for it was very strange indeed. Why would the esteemed water god go to observe the death of a random mortal? But that alone shouldn't have made him suspect a change of fate had occurred, Shilian stated. That's why he impersonated the real Earthmaster and infiltrated the heavens to investigate, Huacheng replied. Pretty brave, if I must say so myself. Worthy to be called brave and astute indeed. If only he hadn't killed the real Earthmaster and dragged over 200 fishermen into this mess. However, Huacheng had to correct him on this point. Gaga, I don't know if he's the one who killed the real Earthmaster, but I'm afraid someone else dragged those fishermen into the storm on the East Sea. And that is chapter 65.